housemoney.media.
If you're the type of person that thinks that you can't invest in real estate because you don't have the advantages that others have, well, Lawrence Briggs, our guest today, will spin that thought on its head and throw it back into your face because he is an inspiration. He's an investor who has had all the odds stacked against him, being born in poverty in New Orleans, and he has made more for himself. And he quickly caught the real estate bug from playing the board game Monopoly. That's where we all get our first real estate education, probably. And he took it and played Monopoly in real life. Now, with 3 properties under his belt, or should I say under his bow tie, Lawrence is a force to be reckoned with. And if he can do it, you can do it too. Welcome to Real Estate Maximalist. I'm your host, Alan Corey, the author of $1 Million by 30 and House Fire, Financial Independence and Retire Early. I teach the House Fire method for you to retire early through real estate. I'm also a top agent with the real estate team, the Alan Corey team in Atlanta, and I've been investing for over 22 years, but I find it much easier to just say I'm a real estate maximalist. Lawrence, thanks for being on Real Estate Maximalist. Great to put a face to a name. I'm excited to share your story. Can you tell us a little bit first about your background and sort of what got you into real estate and where you're at now?
My name is Lawrence Briggs. I am originally from New Orleans, Louisiana, and currently I reside and invest in Central Texas, about 45 minutes to an hour from Austin. I had an upbringing where I was raised by a single mother. I was born into poverty, lived in the New Orleans housing projects, and I was always fascinated with residential areas just because everything that I seen around me was poverty driven, whether it be drugs, alcohol, and or different types of criminal activity. And so through going to private schools, I had a good amount of friends who lived in residential areas. And I, for some reason, was like, they're having a great life because they're in, this house with a white picket fence. And we all know that all suburbs or no place in the world is just perfect just because it's a single family home or if it's in a suburban area. But it definitely looked different from my environment that I was raised in. And so that kind of had me get a love for real estate through like single family homes. And I stumbled on the game Monopoly growing up. With Monopoly, the way to win is to, get as many properties and collect money. So that was pretty much how I got my passion or my start in real estate.
Walk me through your first deal. How did you even know to evaluate a property? Did you get a real estate agent?
So I will always tell people, if they have never purchased any type of real estate, that they should consult a real estate agent, especially if they're totally new to any form of real estate. Now, in 2018, I had purchased a primary residence with a realtor. So I had already become a first time home buyer prior to getting my first investment property. So I pretty much understood, the contracts and, how title companies work and insurance and inspection. And so in 2022, when I was looking to buy my first investment property, I had through those years started to research, just like people who are listening to this podcast. If you're listening to this podcast, you're out seeking knowledge. And so through podcasts and books and learning about real estate, I was like, okay, I need to find a deal, and it may be best if I find a deal off market. And so again, like I said, if you're new to this, deal with an agent who is investor friendly because some real estate agents do not really understand like how to put together deals for investors. So I was driving for dollars. Essentially, I was doing food deliveries. And one night I was passing a property that was vacant, but it didn't look like it was an eviction or anything like that. It looked like it was just an average move out. And I approached someone and I was just like, hi, my name is Lawrence Briggs. I'm a new real estate investor. And I was wondering if this is your property that you own. And the guy said, no, it's not my property. I'm one of the contractors, but I know the owner and I'm really good friends with him. He's a really good guy. Here's his number. I contacted the owner. It took me about maybe 45 days just for him to give me a yes, because he pretty much was telling me no in so many of the nicest ways. And because he had been in the real estate industry for several years, I said, I just want to be able to network with you and be around you. And I will do that through adding value and service to you. So I said, I'm willing to help you paint the house, because he was making the house move-in ready, because he didn't know if he was going to sell it or if he was going to continue it to be a rental. And I said, I'll help you paint the property. I will, help take care of any lawn care or whatever, like whatever you need until you decide what you're going to do. I even told him, hey, it's kind of still winter. I'll go wrap some pipes for you. And I think he was just like, "What am I gonna do to get this person to understand that I'm not gonna sell?" And so I said, "I don't care if you don't sell it to me. I truly just wanna, like, get that knowledge." And so he looked at me and he was like, "I see myself in you 30 years ago." He was like, "When I was around your age, I started just to buy properties. I didn't do it with intention." He said, "But with you, you're actually buying properties with intention. You have a reason, you have a why. And if I decide to sell it, I want to give you a chance." So I got a yes from him, and then I ended up getting a yes from his wife, and we went under contract. So I said it took about 45 days, but this is a person who has owned several properties in the area. And, it was a property that, the owners owned outright, for years. They said that they received postcards and people were skip tracing them to call. And people wanted to give them cash for, properties throughout the year. But it was through that building up relationship and trying to add value to someone that impressed those sellers, essentially, because, I beat out cash buyers at the beginning of 2022 when it was extremely competitive, because we closed February the 9th of 2022 and we went under the contract December the 11th of 2021. So I was very much in a competitive space, and I was able to beat out cash buyers, and I bought that property and it appraised about $15,000 over the asking price.
Nice. Yeah. So did you feel like you were getting a deal at the time, that like a $15,000 discount, or did you negotiate that?
I would definitely say I was happy to get something under contract, as a novice or a new real estate investor, but I had ran my numbers. And I think that's the importance of, being an investor at any stage, whether you are a rookie or a veteran. You always want to run your numbers. It has to make sense on paper. I'm not just going to buy properties just for an ego boost. So the seller pretty much had tossed around some numbers, and I put that into, my Excel sheet, and I ran numbers, and I was like, okay, well, depending on, what he and his spouse decides to sell me the property for, then I definitely would be able to cash flow. Now, I did have the upper hand because I was able to lock in an interest rate at 4% on an investment property, just because of timing. And I knew I was getting a good deal. Did I know that it was going to appraise $15,000 over the asking price? No, I did not. I thought that it was pretty much going to come in at market, but we all know how competitive the real estate era has been thus far.
Yeah.
So whenever it came in, at 15 and I was in maybe like 16 grand, it was kind of like I got the property almost for free.
Hey guys, just want to jump in and explain what he means by the property almost free. He's basically saying, I got the house for $15,000 under what it was worth, and I brought $16,000 to the table. So he basically is looking at it that he got a really deep discount. It didn't take him a whole lot of money. He made $15,000 at the closing table because he bought a house that was appraised for $15,000 over the contract price. So you'll hear the real estate phrase quite often, you make your money on the buy. This is what that's referring to. There's no way but up on this situation. Even if the house goes down in value, let's say it goes down in value $15,000 over the next 6 months or 3 years, he still feels like he got a deal. He has a bunch of wiggle room built in. So this is the big deal flow and the broke method that I teach. And I think Lawrence is the master of the broke method, whether he knows it or not. If you're familiar with it, it's the BROKE, big deal flow, reputational pull, ongoing outreach, knuckle up ability, and execution excitement, which I've heard already in Lawrence's interviews this far, and you're going to hear more of it. He masters finding that big deal flow. He masters the reputational pull. He won over these sellers saying, "You're the type of person I want to sell this property to, and I want to mentor." The ongoing outreach, keep checking in with the husband and wife, the knuckle up ability. Hey, I want to paint your house and do your landscaping, even though I don't get anything out of it. I just want to learn. And the excitement of the execution. Let's go do more. Let's go meet more mentors. Let's share my story on podcasts. He's living the broke method and it's working for him. And I promise you, this works at all levels, whether you realize it or not. They always have these 5 themes. So if you're interested in the broke method course, go to realestatemaxi.com, check it out. Also, you can get my free calculator there, which is running the numbers. So when you hear Lawrence say, "I'm running the numbers," he's running it in his own Excel sheet, his own calculator. It's not anything fancy. I have a free calculator you can download at Real Estate Maxi to see what running the numbers means and what it looks like. But you're just taking all the rental income or expected rental income, and you're subtracting out the mortgage payment, the repair budget, the vacancy budget, all of that. And you're seeing what's left over and you're saying, "Hey, should I move on this property or not?" That's it. It's as simple as that. But now let's hear a little bit more about Lawrence's property.
Do you mind walking through the numbers on this?
Yeah, of course. So that property is a single family home, a 2 bedroom, 1 bath. That one was purchased for 65,000, made a price about $15,000 over the asking price. Because it was a single family home, non-owner occupied, I was able to put 15% down. So with down payment and closing costs, it was almost close to about $16,000. That property rents for $875. So I'm definitely cash flowing on that property pretty well. I ran the numbers as if I would have a private property management company, but right now I self-manage my property, so I definitely, get a higher cash flow on it.
So that's awesome. So 875, you get rental, and then roughly what's your mortgage payment each month?
So the principal, interest, taxes, and insurance, that comes up to about 400 and like
Yeah.
$20.
That's great. Yeah. And he was renovating it before you bought it. So not a ton of repairs, it sounds like.
Yeah, it was turnkey ready. So it was freshly painted throughout the entire property, and there's carpet just in the bedroom, so it was new carpet. So it was turnkey. So I definitely hit a home run on that one, especially with is appraising over the asking price.
Right. So I know a lot of banks don't like to, or aren't able, I should say, to finance homes that are under $100,000. Did you have trouble finding lenders that would do this price point, or?
I did not. I worked with a lender out of Austin. And because I'm so close to Austin, there are banks that are local that has huge capital because of being Austin. But no, I did not have any issue at all getting funding on that property.
Was it as smooth sailing as you thought it was going to be being a first time landlord?
So, yes and no, because I purchased my first rental in February, but then I came back 6 months later and I purchased another rental in July. So 2 rentals within 6 months.
So you were like, this was great. I want to do more of this. I love it.
Yes, within reason. And so I really didn't think that I was gonna get 2 properties in a year, just to be completely honest. My goal was just at least 1 property a year. It's just so happened through networking and relationships, a property kind of fell into my lap and I was like, this is a no-brainer not to do this deal.
I want to hear about this property that fell in your lap.
I'm in some active real estate groups online, and someone in there that, we would always comment and, congratulate each other on different things. This seller was like, "Hey, I purchased a property." But then a few months later, the guy was like, "I'm gonna sell it." And so I'm like, "Why are you selling it? You just got it. It's not a flip." This particular seller has more of his properties very close to each other, like kind of how my properties are. And they just bought this one as a one off. They through relationships, they got it through someone. And they were like, okay, they self manage. It's just better for them to not have their team drive like 30 minutes out for one property. And so I seem like I think this will be a home run because it was end of June, first few days of July, and we knew what interest rates had did around the time. And so I was like, if I could get it for this price point, like this is going to be like a home run. And so I woke up at like 4 a.m., 2 a.m., and I started analyzing this deal. And I went under contract on 4th of July. So while most people were asleep at 2 a.m., I was analyzing a deal. While most people were doing a day on 4th of July, eating hot dogs and, ribs, I was putting a property under contract. So I always say that, people want the results for the work that they don't put in. And so I quickly was able to do that deal through, again, networking online, building a relationship, and the seller had a need and then I had a need. Of course, I wanted another property and the seller wanted to quickly deload that to get capital and buy a property closer to his other properties. And that the numbers on that was a home run as well.
Can you let's hear those numbers.
That one is a 3-bedroom, 1 bath. It's less than a mile away from my second property. So all of my properties are less than a mile away from each other. So it's like real life monopoly. It's and I'm like controlling the market.
Yeah.
It's a 3-bedroom, 1 bath. That one we went under contract for 90,000 and the interest rate was higher. So I didn't get a 4%. You can tell how 6 months can change things. It was a 6 point, I want to say 125%, but I don't care about interest rates as long as the numbers work. So I went into the contract for 90,000. That property, and I know it was going to do this. It appraised for $40,000 over
Nice.
the asking price. And I almost fell out like whenever like my lender and was like, "Hey, you may want to sit down when you open this appraisal report." And we know we know that appraisals and equities got kind of monopoly money, but still to have a deal be appraised at over 40 grand over the contract price, and then for that one I was all in about maybe close to 18 grand. So it's like I got a property for free again.
Yeah, you're doing it right. That's great for your first 2 deals close to home. Have you acquired more since these first 2? Or
I
where's your
have
portfolio?
not. I have not. I'm on a pause right now. But yeah, so I have my primary residence, and I have 2 rentals, and all 3 of those are within a mile of each other. My goal essentially was to just own and occupy a property every year. That was kind of my goal up until the end of 2019, going into 2020. All know what happened, the pandemic. So prices had rose up very fast. So equity wise, it's amazing because I have a great amount of equity in my primary. So I have like an equity piggy bank that I can use whenever I want to like buy more properties. But like I said, the goal is 1 property a year. My mentor is trying to change that to about 2 properties a year. So
Well, you've set the bar. You've set that as the standard, Lawrence. So of course, but that's how I got real estate. 1 property a year for 5 years. That's all I wanted. And then things happen. Doors start opening up. People reach out. I meet someone, and then all of a sudden you're buying 2 a year, and then it turns into 4 a year, and then who knows where it's going to go. So that's all. It's very exciting. What do your family and friends back in New Orleans think of your monopoly playing?
they're very inspired by it. I have received a good amount of positive feedback from my family and friends. Of course, family thinks I'm rich, and we know that two, properties that cash flow well doesn't make you rich right away, but it will make me extremely wealthy over time. But they're inspired by it. And that's kind of like the most rewarding feeling thus far because, I'm just, this guy from New Orleans who, if you listen to statistics and you listen to certain naysayers that, I wouldn't be doing this or even shouldn't be doing this if you ask certain people. So they're very happy for me. And I'm excited that, I can be someone that they can look to. I don't want to say look up to, but someone that, because I'm not trying to be any, I don't want to be anyone's role model because I'm a real model, but someone that they can look to and say, well, you know what? If Lawrence did it, knowing where he's from and my story, then I can do it as well. And I've had people personally reach out to me, both family and friends, and tell me that I've never thought that I would not only be a real estate investor, but I've inspired people to be first time home buyers. So
Yeah.
I'm very excited about that. I've been getting really good feedback.
That's awesome. Congrats.
Thank
That's
you.
yeah, you've got an amazing story. What advice do you have to maybe other people in your shoes that want to be you, right? Like what sort of advice do you give them?
I always tell people you have to start with the why. And the reason being is because that's going to keep you motivated. It's kind of like with anything in life, somebody may say that they're going to lose weight, but why? If you want to lose weight for someone, then that why will quickly die down, because what if that someone doesn't even want to be bothered with you? Now you've, orchestrated your whole goal around someone else. So you should be wanting to do it for you. Like, what reason within you? So like for me, my why is generational wealth. My why is to have my nieces, nephews, great nieces, nephews, and future kids, if I have them, not have to, live in, poverty if possible. So I always would say start with your why. Two, you have to write out your goals, whether that be electronically, whether that be, pen to paper, but you have to be able to know where you want to go and then reverse engineer to that. So, again, if you're listening to this podcast, then you either are an active investor or you are, an aspiring investor. So, listen to all of these podcasts that Alan has and, reach out to him for, any services that he may have to be able to help you achieve those goals. And then the third thing I would say is that you kind of have to tone out the naysayers. And this is advice that I personally take myself. Every single time that I've closed on a property, my family and friends found out about it through social media. Like, the only people who know when I'm buying a property is me, my lender, my realtor. That's it. Because I don't need any noise. And maybe someone that I can confide in who's already done it, like kind of like a mentor or a strong confidant. But I don't need the noise. And unfortunately, that can come from your closest family and friends. And sometimes not to make an excuse for them, but it's because they haven't done what you did, or they're at where you used to be.
Yeah, that makes complete sense because do people try to tell you, like, "Get out of the deal, you shouldn't real estate invest," or this is like, what are the naysayers trying to stop you from doing? Being successful? They're trying to hold you back? What is it?
So I don't have an issue with it now, but when I was about to buy my first property, I didn't let people know I was buying a property, but I would kind of just talk about real estate to kind of test and see what people were saying. And back in 2018, people were saying interest rates were high. In my primary residence, I have like a 5.125% interest rate, which is still low on comparable to a property that's now doubled in value. So I'd rather take a quote unquote higher interest rate on a property that doubled in less than 4 years. I'll take that all day. If we add in inflation, it's almost tripled the price. But realistically, this property literally doubled in value. So people were saying like interest rates are high. And what if you can't pay your mortgage? Okay, well, the difference between paying a mortgage and the difference between not paying your rent is that a landlord can evict you within such amount of days. You still have a certain amount of months before you go through, a foreclosure and all that and short sales. And then also you can be creative with your property. Literally, if you buy a property that you need to get out of, you can sell it. You can, maybe be creative and do short term leases or whatsoever. You can't be creative once your landlord says, okay, why didn't you not pay your rent? So I haven't had an issue with that since 2018 because I don't go looking for it. I don't go entertaining it. And you can find it anywhere, whether it be, you know, forums, blogs, just people commenting on social media. So I don't have that issue anymore. It wasn't even really a big issue at first. Because I've always been a strong-minded person since I was a child. No one's gonna not tell me what I'm not gonna do because once I put my mind to it, it's not a matter of if, but when I do something.
Is there any sort of other advice we didn't cover?
I would just tell people that, go out there and at least try. It's as cliche it may sound, the great things are on the opposite side of fear. And so wherever you're fearing, it probably will be the thing that's going to make you much happier than you are right now. So I would say if you are a current real estate investor or, a new investor, keep networking, keep, doing research, like listen to this podcast and, read books and offer to be of service to people. Sometimes you never know, you may offer to be of service to a seller and maybe 5 years from there or a year from there or whatsoever, they may remember you and say, I want to sell you my property, or they may know someone to refer you. But other than that, I'm sharing my story on social media. I'm Lawrence Briggs pretty much everywhere. Lawrence Briggs on YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. If you Google me, you'll always see me in like a bow tie. So I'm very easily found on social media. I would just want to reach out, like-minded people to reach out to me. I'm in a niche market in the Killeen, Fort Hood, Copper Cove area. And so, of course, if someone's listening and they know of a deal out there or have a deal, definitely reach out to me. But my goal is to, definitely link up with other like-minded investors because I'm a huge believer of collaboration over competition.
Love it, Lawrence. Thank you very much. This is great.
Make sure you follow Lawrence on social media. He's doing big things and he's only getting started. I wanted to recap a few important items from today. One, ongoing outreach and building a network is huge key to success. Lawrence was told no by the first seller, and he saw the importance of having him in his network as an established real estate investor. Through this perseverance and optimism, that no became a yes. All it took was creating a relationship with the previous owner, and his mastery of networking brought him to the second deal in just 6 months. And speaking of your network, be mindful of who you share your potential investments with. Some of the closest and most influential people in your life may not think the way you do or believe in the power of real estate. Lawrence doesn't tell his friends and families about deals until after it's closed. This allows him to let the numbers do the talking. As Lawrence and I have mentioned, interest rates, housing markets, etc., doesn't matter as long as the numbers make sense. Thanks for joining today. If you haven't already, please follow me on social media at Real Estate Maxi. Feel free to ask me questions and keep an eye out for future giveaways. Just a couple weeks ago, I give away free copies of my book, House Fire, to over 250 people. Also, check out the Broke Method to Real Estate Investing with No Money on realestatemmaxi.com, where I'll teach you more than 25 strategies now to get you started building a portfolio with little to no money. And thank you for leaving all the great podcast reviews. Please keep them coming. If you found something helpful in this podcast, please share it with a friend. I appreciate it. Thank you so much for listening. I'll see you next week.